Hey, Collie, you gonna be there?
Quiet! They want to help you out, keep you safe. Come out, keep your hands up!
Those are some of the last words my brother ever heard before he was dead, shot dead. My name is Stephanie Babb. Okay, we have to turn this up. Can somebody get this one over here? Okay, I'll hold it closer. Today I have to thank Eric Richardson for coming to speak here. He is the president of the local chapter of the NAACP. He has a lot of clout and a lot of similarities in the kind of message that we are trying to put out there. Thank you. First of all, hold on. I'd like to thank you, every single person who felt strongly enough to take the time out of the middle of their day to be here. Your presence is proof that what we have to say is important. I'm here for one reason and one reason only. My brother, Captain Brian Babb, was shot and killed by the Eugene Police Department on March 30th. They lacked the proper protocol, communication skill, and training to respond with knowledgeable mindfulness needed to negotiate a veteran suffering from an invisible disability that he'd acquired by defending our freedom. Thank you, Brian. Brian was strong. Brian was dynamic. Brian was injured. It was hard for him to go to the Veterans Administration office to ask for help because he saw men and women with limbs missing, visible scars, and a quiet courage of their fate. My brother Babb was intelligent, intuitive, and protective. He was as good as he was bad, but if I ever needed anyone on my side, he'd be the man I'd want next to me. He taught me to defend myself. He thought it was important. I never imagined in a million years I'd be the one defending him. I speak personally, but there hasn't been a thought, action, or emotion that my family hasn't been there to support, cry, and work toward a solution to this horrific tragedy. We have created the perfect storm to fight the injustice that seems to plague the very people who have sacrificed everything for us to have a better life. The irony is they come home to lose theirs. Alex Gardner and Pete Kearns are just the two first names that come to mind when I think of sellouts. I understand politics, laws, public approval are important to maintain a position you believe will help the people until you start killing them. How do you reconcile the justification you tell yourself before you fall asleep at night? Alex Gardner, I know this must have been a horrible incident of damage control for you, but my family and I have paid an acute attention to the inconsistent accounts of the events leading to my brother's murder, and our diligent and painstaking attention to detail has only led to one conclusion. You're hoping we'll go away. Because we have more facts than you do, and what you bothered to investigate. You panicked, just as Will Stutzman did. Pete Kearns, I'm confounded. I'm a little embarrassed for you as well. That you thought you could use my brother's name, the name Babb, 13 times in an article when you were so painfully trying to rectify the situation. Don't use my brother's name as a platform for PR. Own it. What I will say is there is a solution. It began when people started listening and recognizing a system that has broke down. An overzealous militaristic response to situations that begs for a better solution. We the people pay our law enforcement to keep the peace. When that fails, we fix it. It's time to make a law to mandate a standardized protocol for all domestic law enforcement across the nation to utilize a specialized task force working in conjunction with outsourced veterans specializing in crisis training to respond to veterans in distress. This would be Brian's bill. We have this. I'd like it if people put their names, their email addresses, so we can start reaching out. My brother has a website, www.captainbrianbabb.com. It's all lowercase, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Richardson, and then we have a few guest speakers, veterans, who would like to say something. Thank you so much.
As you saw, that was a heartfelt plea for action. As you may know, I was involved in an incident that had similarities to this case, even though it's minute compared to the case of Captain Babb, in that no one's life was lost, but just because someone's life was lost doesn't mean we don't take action. We need to stop it when we see it, and that goes for all injustices. My nephew got into the situation he was in because of a brain injury. But this brain injury wasn't on the combat field. It was actually on a basketball court, a sport that doesn't even require headgear. But he was injured, and which led to his situation. When I witnessed what happened, and then I read the article in the Register Guard recently, I couldn't help but notice the similarities in two things: a breakdown in communication, a lack of communication, and the idea that our best and primary tool is force. I think that we can do better than that. And it's a very sad tribute to our nation that we're sitting here talking about the death of a veteran. And in fact, in this town, I just had a conversation earlier about our Vietnam veterans, who we don't know the numbers, but we know in great numbers they're on the streets of our city right now. And so the idea of having a society that allows this to happen, but at the same time, we know that our society is built on their courage and their sacrifice. So what we need to do is be able to sacrifice some of that hard-earned money and put it on the table to help our brother countrymen. And that's not really a sacrifice. You don't get to take your money with you when you die, but you take your heart. And that's where it lies. That's the test. What are we doing? What are we going to be able to say at that point? But anyway, I'd just like to thank the Babb family for having me here. I think that was a wonderful gesture on their part to say that all lives matter, and that even though the NAACP is recognized and thought of as an organization that deals with black lives and black issues, in fact, I just want to set the record straight. The NAACP deals with the issue of the United States of America. The spirit of the United States of America, the conscience of the United States of America, the Constitution. So we just wanted to say that Brian's bill is the proper way for citizens to get change, but we have to keep agitating as well. We have to be on the street, and in fact, we have to also partner with the institutions that be. And so we will do that as community members and as community organizations. I see the CALC is here and other organizations are here that have been doing this work, Human Rights Commission. And so we want to gather all these people together, all this energy that we have, and keep moving forward to make sure that something does change in a positive way for our people here in Eugene, in the state, and in the United States. Because mental health issues aren't going away. People are going to need help in many different avenues, and it's going to take a caring society, and that's all we're asking for here. And we want accountability. When something goes wrong, we need acknowledgement that it has gone wrong so that we can move forward. But anyway, thank you all for coming here. The NAACP stands with the Babb family and all people who seek dignity and justice here in the United States. Thanks.
If a few of you have noticed, I want to point out the American flag is upside down for a purpose. It means distress. So there is a reason for that. Thank you. And this is my mother, Wanda Holloway.
Thank you all for showing up. I wish Brian could see this. He would be... I said thank you all for showing up. I'm so proud of you guys, and Brian would be too. I have a very, very short statement to say that when my son was shot, there were 2 fingers on that trigger. The police finger and the Veterans Administration finger. They have done nothing to back up our veterans and the PTSD patients. We do not have enough counselors. The police are not. They are not medical providers. As a retired nurse, and my daughter's a nurse, I am telling you, they have no business responding to PTSD or attempt suicide. We must have the veterans trained by the Veterans Administration that will go out and soldier to soldier. They will take care of each other. They do it in war, they'll do it in peace. And we expect the Veterans Administration to pay for it. And that is my push until the day I die, is that the Veterans Administration will take more responsibility. They don't even like us to know that 22 young people a day are being killed. 22. One person closer? Okay. One person every 65 minutes. That's their figures. They don't like it out in the news because they promote that it will cause more suicides rather than less. And I say that is bull. We need to hear those figures. 22 people. Right now, more young people have killed themselves or been killed by police than was killed in the whole Iraq war. We need to see that every day in the newspaper. That is a horrendous number. And the Veterans Administration is responsible for those numbers, and it is almost impossible to get those numbers out of them because they don't like keeping those numbers. I thank you very much. Keep my son in your prayers, and we'll keep working. To date, we have seen no forensics that says that gun was ever lifted to Brian's shoulder. We do not have the forensics that says Brian even had the gun in his hands. We do have a 4-minute lag of time before anybody checks to see if Brian was dead. We do not have the forensics that says that the bullet went from his left cheek through his neck and out the other side, that he wasn't looking this way to go back into his house. None of those forensics have ever been shown us. No details, nothing. So to my mind, I know my son, he did not shoulder that weapon.
All right, I apologize. I was taking the registered guard's word for it.
Thank you so much. Okay. We've got a few other speakers here, and I love my mom's immediate reaction. There is another point of fact that Will Stutzman is the only one who apparently had any kind of visual on my brother at all. This was behind 3 6-foot fences and a tree. He could see barely the top of my brother's head, and he was outside, standing outside of a turret behind a lid with sunglasses on. I have a picture of it, so that's what we're looking at. I'd like Kathleen. I'm very honored to have Kathleen come up here. This has been very hard for her, and I'm very appreciative. She's family. Hello, my name's Kathleen, and I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. And I'm afraid to call my therapist after hours because of this happening. I don't want the police at my house. I don't want to die because I have post-traumatic stress disorder. It is a broken mind. We can't fix it. You can only learn how to cope with it, and sometimes that doesn't even work. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for showing up for this family and their tragedy. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. That morning, or the night that he died, the next morning I got the phone call. I lost my therapist, had to find another therapist, and lost it. So that's what happens when you have PTSD. You lose it a lot, but you can get calmed down if you have people to help you. This is my sister, Rhonda McGowan. I'm Brian's older sister, and I've often said that I feel like I failed him. I spent a lot of time with Brian after he came back, and I wasn't going to speak today, but I hear all of this, and I have to. There's some points I need to make that a lot of people don't know that the Register Guard has missed, that have been kept hidden, I believe purposefully, by the Eugene Police Department and the former district attorney. It's kind of curious that he left like he did. I have made the statement repeatedly. My brother, 100%, was unarmed when the police were called. He didn't have a gun in his hand. His safe was locked. His actual handgun was outside in his driveway, locked in his pickup. And I looked at Chief Kearns' eyes and I said, Chief Kearns, did your dispatcher report that my brother was unarmed when they called out the police? And he said, no, they did not. And I said, why did they not tell the officers heading to the scene that this was an unarmed man? And he said, well, you know, I have to look out for my officers. That was his answer, liability to his officers. And I just have a real problem with that. There are multiple things in the investigation that have not come out. They had my brother's body laying on the ground for 6 hours. We have video of him lying in a pool of blood, and detectives walking over his body. They didn't even put a sheet to cover him. How disrespectful. That was my brother. He served our country. And then after they kept the house for hours, I came in and cleaned my brother. I cleaned him up, what was left in his house, and it was hard, and I prayed the whole time. Many hours later, as I was working through cleaning the house, guess what I found? I looked at the wall and said to my husband, is that a bullet? Oh my God, it is. We went over to the wall, and there was a bullet embedded in the wall. Now, the detectives told us my brother had to lay there. They were so sorry. They were apologetic, but they were trying to be thorough in the investigation. It was so important. I found that bullet, and it was the bullet that went through my brother's head and killed him. They had that scene and had my brother lying there for hours, and they didn't even look in the wall and find the bullet. I called them and said, gee, would you guys like to see this bullet? It's here. These guys are really trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, and there's a lot that they are not saying, and there's a lot that they're missaying. And I need everybody to know that. Even the registered guard has missed some points, and we're going to make sure it gets out in the public. You know, mental illness shouldn't be a death sentence. I'm a nurse, and I take care of patients every day that need help, not a SWAT team. And I just thank everybody for coming out here. Obviously, I'm really emotional about it, and you know, I can't help not be. I want justice for my brother, and I want people to feel safe to call the police. I grew up as a little kid, and they were the good guys. I have a son with mental illness. I am worried every single day of my life that if something happens with him, he'll be killed or hurt. So anybody, you know, if you're here, I thank you. Spread the word. We've got to get this stopped. Thank you guys very much.
ETG in terms of the problem. ETG in terms of part of the problem.
I'm going to go ahead and let this
problem.
gentleman introduce himself because I don't know everybody's name, but I'm very appreciative you were here. Thank you.
My name is Chuck Sturms, Vietnam vet, 6970. I'm 100% disabled, PTSD. I get up every morning and try to do something constructive. Yesterday I was in San Diego and standing on a train station, and a man was on the street acting out. Something happened. Not sure. And a policeman walks up, and so I'm not watching the homeless man, I'm watching the policeman. And the policeman watching his nonverbals. What is he doing? How is he approaching this man who is mentally handicapped or disabled or insane? Who knows? Who knows? And as I watched the policeman, he was attempting to de-escalate, not escalate, by what he was doing. This policeman was aware that there was a problem here. And in a short time, this man who was engaging with the policeman walked away, and the policeman walked away, and at least the policeman was smiling. The other man, I'm not sure. So it's possible to engage. It's possible to engage with me. Frankly, I'm a trained professional killer. That was my job. So when a policeman pulls up to me, I'm going to say the same thing that Brian said, even if you have a gun in my face. So you don't want to take us vets on unless you're willing to kill us, unless you're willing to dialogue with us, try to understand us, because my nickname is Fubar, for those of you who understand what that is. So I salute the Babb family for living as my wife and my kids and my grandkids live with me. I'm messed up, but I can function in society and make a contribution here in the community, so don't shoot me. Thank you.
I know we keep coming back to this, but I do have an audio tape of Gardner saying the reason they had to shoot Brian was because he was a veteran and he was a sharpshooter, and that's why they took such precaution. I don't understand that. I have somebody else here. I'd love to speak. Greetings. Help me with this because I'm not used to talking in front of a mic. My name is Mariah Konschnitsky-Roth, and I live in Eugene, Springfield, have for 17 years, and I live with mental illness, and I'm a survivor of mental illness 7 years now. 5, 7, count them. 5, 7, count them. And in those 7 years, I've had 7 psychiatric inpatient stays. I'm here today as a volunteer representative from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Lane County chapter. This is the organization, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that supports individuals and families who deal with mental illness, whether you're the person with the mental illness or the family standing and supporting the person with mental illness. I'm here for them. My new job title is mental health advocate / wait for it, activist. What I'd like to do is start locally. We need to raise the level of awareness in our community, in our nation, as it relates to mental illness. 1 in 5 individuals in their lifetime will deal with a mental illness. 1 in 5 in their lifetime will deal with mental illness. Yet the stigma is real, it's in your face, it's right here, right now, and that's one of the things that we need to work to change. As we work towards positive change in our community, I can say in the 7 years that I've had this illness, I have had more help from the White Bird Crisis Intervention folks, from CAHOOTS, which stands for a Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. These are the individuals in our community who get in the van, who come to my house, come to the University of Oregon, wherever I am, they're trained counselors and trained medics. They work under the auspices of the Eugene Police Department. They're not on 24/7, which we need to get on really quickly, because that will help immensely in our community. Let's get folks who are trained to deal with mental illness, who know about mental illness, who don't approach mental illness with the stigma. Our police officers don't have that kind of training. They don't have that kind of background. They don't have that kind of experience. So we need trained individuals to respond to mental health crises. So let's work on that together. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We have 2 more speakers, so if you'd like to come up, we have Gary.
Hi, my name's Gary. You know, folks, EPD and Chief Kearns is part of the problem, if not the problem. We need to have better communications amongst the veterans that serve our country and the public that has to deal with the police on a daily basis. Folks, let's face it, okay? Let's face it. If we don't stand together and put a stop to this craziness, our veterans are going to keep getting shot, our citizens are going to keep getting brutally attacked. We need to put a stop to it. It's time that the police department stop their lies and start opening up to their citizens and standing for what we believe they should stand for, our safety. Thank you.
My name's Art Bowman. I'm a citizen. I've spent a lot of the past year watching the police downtown and watching them target specific areas of the... I've spent a lot of time in the past year watching the police downtown and watching them target specific citizens, mostly poor and homeless students, also Latinos. I've told Latinos aren't allowed to go downtown. This is the most heavily policed area of downtown, not just with 9 bicycle police officers, untold radio patrol cars, downtown tour guides in red caps who wear bulletproof jackets, and LTD security guards, but also through their coordinated efforts. Basically, this is a segregated zone. It's a militarized zone. There are people who are targeted for what is called quality of life offenses. It's actually the existence of these people, but some people find offenses to their quality of lives. It interferes with tourists, business developers, other people. Now, police brutality does not end at the arrest or before the arrest. It goes on a couple blocks to the south at Lane County Jail. Everyone knows people who have been to jail. Everyone knows people who know people. People are beaten there on a regular basis. I have a friend who knows a woman who was an undocumented immigrant. She spent untold months going through the American Gulag, even though she was arrested right here in Lane County. And she said the most brutal part of the whole prison system was right over there. My most vivid experience of it I can see was when I intercepted a periodically homeless, mentally ill woman who had been targeted right by the Halt Center for disorderly conduct, which is an offense to someone's quality of life. When I saw her, she had gone into a manic cycle that, as nearly as I could tell, lasted a week. She had been working, she had shelter, she lost most of them as the result of it. What's most vivid was the bruises I saw up and down. I saw her discard papers. I asked her who did it. She said the cops. Now, that was what she said. We don't have any proof. She has a lawyer, so I don't know the details. But I do know she was beaten very brutally one night when she spent untold periods of time in police custody. I would assume, even though she wasn't quite coherent, that it happened in the jail. From what I've heard, it's much more brutal on the women's side than the men's side, but it's bad on both sides. I tried to bring this to people's attention. I hear different details. Talk to the police auditor. It's not our committee's jurisdiction. Everything like that. I'm tired of hearing about regulations and jurisdictions. This just needs to stop. It's the most glaring human rights abuse in Lane County, and it's right 3 blocks from here. Thank you.
I think that pretty much wraps it up. There's one thing I'd like to mention. We started a nonprofit. Mom, what's it called? Brian's Bill Inc. We will put it on his website. We will need as much help as we can get in order to get this bill passed and do everything we can to make sure that things like this don't happen again. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.